Good morning, everybody. So happy to see you this morning. So here we are in Portland, still semi-snowed in, snowed and rained in, iced in, whatever you want to call it. We have weird weather. So welcome. Let's meditate. And I think we'll start as we usually do, taking your attention just below your belly button. And this is the place my friend Mika calls home base, safe place. And in Chinese medicine, it's called the Dantian. It's the place where you store your energy, because when your energy runs out in this location, that's when your life force is finished. So it makes sense to tend to this fire, the fire of the essence of our being, located just below the belly button. It's considered a cauldron in Chinese medicine, where we store our life essence. And it's important to learn to take all your attention to this energy center and allow what normally resides between your ears to come all the way down to the center of your body. This is where the athlete finds the balance point before any physical endeavor. And from this place, there is no mind. There's just that sense of connection to direct action. And it takes some practice to feel this as a safe place, because we're used to having our safe place between our ears, where we have a sense of intellectual control. But in this moment, we want to let go of that intellectual control, completely let go of it, and just feel into our physical body center. This is the balance point in our torso, where our feet are completely connected to the earth. And our head is literally in the clouds for the moment. We have no sense of ourselves as an intellectual being, just as a physical presence. And as we sink deeply into that energetic center of the physical presence, the body may even disappear. But there's still this sense of wholeness in our union with our physical being, even if we let go of the sensation of the body. There's a very strong sense of present being. Just feel for that and the space between the breaths in this energy center, and the quiet, the stillness that exists there for us. So in each of the energy centers, as we go through them, The sensation we are cultivating is the awareness of ourselves as beings of light, pure light, which is the closest representation to energy that we can point to with our language. So allow your attention to drop below your tailbone. Feel the earth. And our complete connection to her. This divine mother who takes care of us from the second we arrive, every breath we take, every drink of water, every living thing we consume is of the earth, provided for us. Feel that light connection. See the roots that extend down from your feet. And gently allow your attention to rise up to your heart center. And here arises the gratitude, just naturally. Feel that breath come into the center of your chest and just open everything. Again, feel for the stillness in between the breaths. Understand that your energetic body can easily extend 9 feet in every direction. We keep ourselves small. Mostly because we never think about it. Allow your attention to rise into your throat center. As you claim your voice, Feel what it feels like to extend 9 feet in every direction. Allow your energy to naturally rise up through the third eye. Feel for the light in the third eye. Allow it to be as big and bright as it wants to. And naturally, it will shoot out the top of the head, overflowing. With the fountain, the elixir of love that comes through our central channel. And imagine that shower flowing 9 feet up, 9 feet down, 9 feet out in every direction as we embody our energetic being. Let's just sit and appreciate that flow for a few minutes. Now, holding that awareness of big spiritual energy. Allow yourself to gently open your eyes, slowly. Doesn't have to happen fast. You don't need to shock your awareness. Just gently participate in two realms, inner and outer, at the same time by allowing your vision to open. At the same time, holding your attention in your energetic field. We could call this expanded awareness. It is always available. It is we who turn our backs on it. Always there, ever present, completely available, as close as our breath. And the idea of being separate from it is as ludicrous as the idea of being separate from our breath. How could our breath be other than us? And then we can contemplate, well, what happens when the breath stops? That which is alive about us leaves our body. Because our body is not what's alive about us. Having understood that, then the cultivation of this awareness suddenly makes a lot of sense. Because there is a certain truth to it. The truth of what we're made of. Underneath what's connected to the earth. Or surrounding what's connected to the earth. We can think of it either way, because it's not separate in any way. It is our essence. So present, so available. And yet, every time we experience it, it feels like the first time. Because we forget to cultivate this awareness. Because life with a capital L as we live it has so many other distractions. So it's good to have some regular practice. And it can be mantra, it can be meditation, it can be anything that we feel attracted to that connects us to this powerful inner resource. But to do something every day to acknowledge the truth of our being is really, really helpful in the big picture. Ends up being helpful in the little picture too. But that's harder to talk about because that comes with depth over time. So we welcome your questions. We're so happy to be here with you. A meditative experience like that is only possible because of the depth of practice that everyone here has cultivated in themselves. That's what makes it possible for us to come and share this. It's not that we're, beaming in from above and tapping you with a magic wand. Not at all. This is your own cultivation, bringing your awareness to you. And collectively, we feel it much more strongly. But there is no other making this experience possible. You are reaching it for yourselves. It's much safer to think of it as something outside of you that comes to you in rare moments that you have no responsibility for. But that's not the truth. And the real understanding is the grabbing hold of that responsibility and cultivating it every single day. And that's what changes the world. It changes our world first. Because we are cultivating it for ourselves. And yet, having cultivated even for a short time, you understand that it's much bigger than any person. And what a great gift it is to have the awareness of it. So we continue to welcome your questions. Yes.
About 5 years ago, I had a surgery. I went in for surgery and they had to keep me awake. So while I was out around the orbit of Jupiter, there was a squeaky toy that they gave me, and they'd check in every once in a while and have me squeeze it to make sure I was still around. And after the operation, I went to the recovery room, and they hooked me up with an alarm and a personal nurse right there to keep an eye on me, because apparently whatever they gave me unplugged my automatic breathing apparatus. So every once in a while, I would just drift off and forget to breathe. And the alarm would go off, and the nurse, who was right next to my cot, would say, "Time to breathe. You need to breathe now." And they'd call me back. This happened for an hour and a half, and finally my automatic breathing got plugged back in. You probably know a lot more about this than I do, but I am still grateful to that nurse who kept me alive when I would have drifted off. This is probably what happens with all the people that are taking fentanyl and unplugging. Anyway, to this day, every once in a while, I become aware that, oh, I'm being breathed. The Great One is breathing all these galaxies and planets and me. And then I just go back into ordinary consciousness of, okay, I'm breathing. But it is a great reminder that the universe is doing me. I don't have to do it all myself. And at the same time, I'm responsible. Feel free to blow a riff on that, because just what you said reminded me of that experience. I've been thinking about it lately, and the gratitude is just every once in a while, I realize I'm being breathed. It's a wonderful place to be.
You said it all. There's nothing to add to that. Yeah, it's a great gift. That moment of awareness of being breathed. And in that, there is a complete surrender. You understand, because we suddenly realize we're not doing it. And the understanding of that, that's freedom. That's the freedom to just be, to be breathed. And just having a moment of that, where we're not thinking about all the other things that come in to intrude on that bliss awareness, where we can just be breathed. And if you watch animals in the animal kingdom, they know this. They know it. They just are it. They're never separate from it. They take it for granted. Must be completely remarkable to them to watch us struggle. Our dog is so much better at total relaxation than any of the humans. He just kind of oozes into love. We have that same capacity. And that's what being breathed is. It's when we let go of doing or trying to be. Either end of that axis. What an experience you had. Usually they put you on a ventilator when they do that, so that there's no danger of you stopping breathing. Must have been some kind of neurosurgery.
It was a carotid endarterectomy.
Interesting. Hmm. Well, that's only the blood supply to the brain. One of four. Fortunately, it's a redundant system. Nature's pretty amazing in that respect. How may we serve this morning? We love seeing your faces. The smiles are so generous and beatific. Yes.
This is a very general question about mantra. To speak about that. Also, it's on one level, on one end, there's this experience which can happen. Well, the mantra saying you. But otherwise, it's just any advice about how to engage the energies of the mantra, when just in the day-to-day practice engagement.
So the question is about mantra and how to engage the energies of mantra in day-to-day practice. And it's really interesting because mantra we can look at as a way of embodying certain vibration, certain frequencies that we wish to cultivate within ourselves. So there is this understanding that Sanskrit is a universal language of spirituality. That's the foundation of mantra practice, is that understanding that certain frequencies cultivate spirituality and that these were discovered by ancients, that the presumption or assumption is they had access to information that we don't have. And if you study particularly Vedic culture, there's the understanding that there are historical times where human beings are far superior to what we are experiencing in our daily lives. And that during those historical periods, mantras were passed on as oral teachings, because there's the understanding that human beings were very different in their capacity for memorization than the human beings we experience today, who it's rare to find a photographic memory or an audiographic memory where somebody hears something once and they know it. But there is some historical I guess we'll use the word understanding, that these superior human beings existed in a different time and were aware of the power of these frequencies to change our awareness. And so mantra practice is based in that understanding that these syllables contain within them frequencies that change our capacity to experience spiritual, for want of a better word, frequencies that we would not ordinarily be able to cultivate within ourselves. And for anyone who has practiced mantra for years at a time, there are definite effects that happen to a human being in repeating certain syllables often over time. And they create a resonance within us that allows for a different experience. This is the purpose of mantra practice. Now, there's a lot of mythology that goes with it that says if you don't pronounce the syllables exactly in the right way, then they won't be effective. We don't know if that's true or not, because throughout the ages, the pronunciation has varied widely from region to region. And Buddhists will say the same mantras that Hindus say in very different ways, and they seem to be able to cultivate similar resonances. So we don't really have an opinion about that. We're just acknowledging what our own experience is. So, is it valuable to say mantra? Absolutely. Mantra is one of the ways we can remind ourselves that we are part of a bigger picture, a greater whole, that we have access to something within ourselves that is worth cultivating. And meditation is not always available to us as human beings. We get distracted, distorted, and confused, and for whatever reason, we can't meditate for some periods of time. Happens to all of us. And so it's always good to have a mantra that you can go to as your connection to the goddess energy on a daily basis, especially if you're having a bad day and you can't quite meditate, can't quite bring yourself to try to even get quiet. Then mantra practice. And we find it's good to do mantra practice in the morning, to do a regular practice and do it every day. And we've been through various stages of this practice. At times we were taught that the faster you could say it and the greater number of times you could say it, the more benefit there would be. And our experience today is that a mantra said very deeply, with great attention, has a lot more power personally, today's experience, than a mantra said as fast as you can hundreds of times. We don't deny the validity of either idea of practice, because there is value in accumulated numbers. And, you know, of course, the mantras Rebecca is the ones she's studying now have everything to do with cultivating relationships with planets and luminaries, the sun and the moon. That's a very small part of mantra practice. And there are mantras that are essential to different aspects of philosophy. ancient philosophies. And it is believed that mantras imparted from a guru that have to do with direct frequencies that an individual needs to cultivate have enormous power. That is also our experience. Anasa makes no claims as to guruhood. At the same time, there has recently been published a book by a man named Andrew Foss, who is a very learned astrologer who's been studying in India for decades. And he managed to unearth what are clearly a treasure of mantras for each planetary frequency. There are 108 for each planet. And he has devised a system, or was given, downloaded. We don't know exactly how his information was received, although we know it's from credible sources because of the integrity of who he is as a human being, that he had to earn the capacity to receive these mantras to be able to pass them on. So there are 108 mantras for each planet, and there are 108 degrees in the zodiac. So each planet, according to its placement in the zodiac, has its mantra. And it's possible to buy this book and look at your own chart and figure out what mantras are appropriate to you for accessing the planetary energies that have the greatest impact. Now, this assumes that your birth time is correct. Assumes all kinds of things. But it's a place to start. And part of the context of this question is that people in this room have been working with these mantras and had suddenly surprising access to planetary energies that they didn't have before. So that's a very interesting phenomenon to discover. And it also shows that the deep work that's being done by individuals to understand their own reality in whatever context they are reaching for perfection of understanding, that this spiritual practice brings information to the whole of us, to our entire extended earthly consciousness. This is available to everyone. Most people will never come across it or begin to cultivate the riches that look to be available there. This is just the arena in which we are most recently acquainted with mantra. And it's very, very exciting. Because one of the fundamentals of astrology as spiritual practice is that one can influence one's life experience by understanding the karma that is implied in the chart and working with it to become a more refined person. Now, that requires an entire belief system that's beyond the scope of this conversation. But mantra practice does not require a belief system. All it requires is that you suspend your belief system while you practice and watch what happens. That's all that's required. So, you know, it's one of those gambles, like a William James thing, you know, might be better to try it out and fail than to ignore the opportunity and miss a chance at real success, whatever that means. Assuming that real success is about accessing a part of ourselves that we were previously unable to access. Understanding a part of why we're here that suddenly makes total sense in a context that was previously unknowable. And, you know, we are encouraging Rebecca to speak about this because we are the ones who told her to go study astrology as a way to benefit humanity. And if you remember, she was totally resistant to the idea for a very long time. Which, you know, that is meaningless. It's just an interesting part of the journey. And so, you know, in terms of believing everything she has read, not exactly. But understanding that a treasure may just have become available for all of us, that's amazing. Amazing and wonderful. So we can't remember the name of the book at the moment, can you?
Yoga of the Planets, Their Mantras and Philosophy.
There we go. Yoga of the Planets, Their Mantras and Philosophy.
I typed it in.
Great. Okay, you've got it. Andrew Foss is the author. Came out within the last year.
Somebody's unmuted.
Oh, somebody's unmuted. Somebody want to talk?
Can
Hi.
you see me? Hi.
Yes, so happy to see
Hi,
you.
Rebecca and Anasa. So I wanted to say, along the lines of mantra, I wanted to share with everybody that Dr. Rebecca worked with me and shared with me a mantra that based on this thing she's describing, this learning, that might be helpful to me based on my chart and based on what's happening. And I just wanted to share with everybody that I've been mantraing for years and years without a lot of traction. I mean, it's been good, but I've made great leaps and bounds with what she was able to share. So I just wanted to let everybody know that it does work, or at least it does seem to be with me. So that's the first thing. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much for your feedback.
Yeah, it's really, it's like a key in a lock. The one that was assigned, it fits and it's working and there's movement and it's lovely.
Oh,
So thank. Yeah,
that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing.
yes, thank you. I want everybody to know that if you get it right, it's quite transporting. Yeah. And then the other thing that I wanted to share and get your input on is that really early this morning, like about 1:30, one of the members of my dog tribe left his body and is now in his next spot. And of course, it's incredibly tender. And so a lot of people are mourning and we're also sharing. And I just wondered, Anasa, if you have anything to share with us about our four-legged companions and their role and how just our relationships with them. So that's all. I'll mute up and let you talk about these companions on our journey.
Well,
Mwah.
we're going to say, first of all, that you are far more acquainted with these journeys than we or Rebecca are. And so you are much more of an authority. What we will say is that animals, in particular, ones that have chosen to be our pets, and make no mistake, they choose us. We don't choose them. They choose us because they come here for a reason, just like we do. And they never question their reason. That's the difference between us and them. They have no questions about why they're here or why it's time to stay or why it's time to go. And so we participate in their lives with a conscious sense of awe, because we discover that very quickly about them, that they just know about that which is our source. They have no questions about it, ever. They have not lost their connection. They don't go through a great forgetting like human beings do. And so we can learn enormously from them. We can imitate their pure, unadulterated trust in life itself, including the death experience. No animal, unless it's been severely mistreated, will in any way try to defy death. That's not their way. They don't fight. They don't fight what is, what's real, what is true. They are part of it. And that is their great teaching to us, is their complete complicity and surrender in every moment. Yes, they have personalities, and we love that about them. And the personalities are active, and they're fantastic. But the great joy, even in the experience of death, is having been close to such a refined being. and they never lose their connection. And so, in a way, what we're mourning is our loss of connection to them when they go, because they have made us aware of something far greater than what we knew before them. And so when we understand that, then we can have great gratitude for them having been a part of our lives. And when another one chooses us to serve, then we willingly participate. So what a great gift. And the sadness itself is the monument to the incredible connection and learning that took place for you. Yes. And your, decades of dedication to whoever calls in that form. So it is with great gratitude we share this moment of mixture of joy, grief, and sadness. And always the understanding that grief is love turned inside out. Same glove, just whether it's on the hand or turned inside out.
You can't fight that one. Oh, thank
No.
you.
Yeah. And pain and joy, they're
Just right there.
right there on the razor's edge. Yes. And
Oh,
you allow it to slay you.
yeah. I'm just a
Go
puddle.
with it.
My
Yeah.
pajamas is just melting. Yeah. Going through it.
And at the same time, the mantra is very stabilizing.
Yes. Agreed.
So we'll share with you our mantra story, and that is Rebecca has a moon. Well, her moon is in the same house as Saturn. So that tends to make a person melancholy and emotional, but at the same time, not a lot of access to the range of emotion that's available for a human being. That can happen. And in addition, her moon is aspected by 3 great malefics, Rahu, Saturn, and Mars. So that's a lot of negative energy. And so the way it was described to her is that the mantra, saying the specific moon mantra, would create a protection around that moon so that it's not so vulnerable to these malefic energies, which are quite powerful as they move through the chart, both in the Rasi chart is the chart that we're given at birth. And then, of course, the planets and the sun and the moon, they're all moving through the atmosphere all the time. And depending on what glances they are throwing toward our natal chart, what we were born with, those glances have impact on our daily experience. And as we begin to understand those experiences and those impacts, then we can use mantra to literally soften the impact of a particular planetary energy in a particular moment. So instead of being a harsh deliverer of negativity, there is a sense of working through these energies and not being victimized by them, but participating in an ever growing learning experience. So that seems to be happening. So this one mantra, the practice was begun on August 22nd. So where are we? Six months, almost 7 months. The mantra becomes part of daily experience. And there are moments where the mantra says you, as the breath breathes you. And as that shift begins to be embodied, then the experience of the planetary power changes. So this is all a very esoteric discussion, and I apologize for, going into Vedic astrology, because it's my own obsession of the moment. And I suppose this conversation is the beginning of the understanding of how to apply it in the real world to actually benefit the people whose lives touch ours. And the fact that this book exists is just boggling to me, mind-boggling. At the perfect moment, just appeared. And this is somebody who's done probably 5 decades of work to be able to have such an opportunity. And there's so much diversity even within Vedic astrology itself, that I wonder how many copies have been sold. Because astrologers are very opinionated about what they know for some reason. There are, of course, extensive mythology about this, that at some point astrologers abused their talents in being able to predict what would happen. And so they lost some of their capacity to share things with each other because they got too arrogant. So the jury's out on that. But there is a lot of large egos and small ponds. But we've noticed that in every esoteric field. Same is true in homeopathy. Same is true in osteopathy, for that matter. In music, certainly, people know what they know very well, and they get very opinionated. At the same time, this is a great opportunity that seems to have some validity in our personal experience as we explore it with others. Anything else? Yes.
Good morning, Rebecca. As you were talking, I find it also fascinating. And when you apologized for it, I felt this like punch in the gut. No, don't apologize for it. I was wondering if you could please continue to share it with us, you know, as time evolves and as you learn more, because it opens a window for me too of like that bubbling up of wanting to know more, you know, that you get in your gut when somebody says something that's just like makes you stop and take a breath in. And it's not really reacting, it feels more like a response to it. So I'd like to propose that maybe you continue to share it with us. I find it all fascinating and I'm going to buy the book and, you know,
Mhm,
so I
mhm.
just wanted to make that statement, not really a question, except for could you consider perhaps?
Oh, I so appreciate that because this is pure Rebecca. It's completely fascinating to me. It has so much value in my own life, in my own understanding, and I can't help myself from talking about it because it's an ever increasing obsession. And it has taught me so much about myself and the assumptions that I bring to almost every conversation have all been challenged and changed in very amazing and unpredictable ways to me.
Yeah,
And already the gifts are so far beyond the investment. You know, from the very moment of being offered a great teacher, you know, and seeing that expand and grow in a different way. And watching the intuition there and the offering that comes in a way very similar to Anasa in that it is just channeled
yes.
and given in a very take it or leave it, it's just gifted.
I guess that's why I'm asking for you to please continue to gift us, because that's actually what it felt like. It felt like a gift to get to hear you talk about it and explain it. And it feels like an amazing opportunity for everyone present to grow in a new way that's
Thank you
being
for that.
presented to us. So, well, thank you.
Well, it's all very interesting, process of revelation that's happening. It's like a personal rebirth, and I can't exactly talk about it because it's not finished.
Of course.
But it's definitely in process.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I mean that's a very heartfelt thank you, and I can feel that it's a generosity throughout the group that part of signing up for this is a willingness to participate in the entire journey, not just the spiritual access to Anasa, but everything that they've brought. So on that note, I think we'll move into meditation. It's kind of already happening in its own way. There's just a depth that the energy suddenly fell into, and I think we can all appreciate for the next some minutes. Thank you so much for coming today. Thank you so much for your positive feedback. And for participating in whatever we're becoming. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So let's go back into our meditation. And each of you contributes so beautifully. We have nothing to add except our appreciation. Thank you so much for coming today. It's been a very moving experience for me. Thank you. Till next time. So grateful to you all.